She ripped our wedding photo in half and yelled, "This marriage is a joke!" I picked up the pieces, threw them into the fire, and said, "So are you." The room exploded as she lunged at me. My name is Mark Turner. I'm 38 years old, a structural engineer living in Seattle. I've spent most of my adult life believing that if you built something solid enough, whether it was a bridge, a house, or a marriage, it would stand through any storm. Turns out I was wrong about at least one of those. My wife, Rachel, is 35. On paper, she's everything people admire. Sharp, ambitious, quick with a joke that can light up a room. For a long time, I was captivated by that energy. We've been married for 9 years, and together we have a 7-year-old daughter, Olivia, who is the center of my world. If you saw us from the outside, a suburban house, steady jobs, family vacations, you'd think we had it figured out. But the truth is, our foundation had been cracking for years. Rachel has a taste for drama, for chaos even. At first, it was little things, mocking me in front of her friends for being boring, overspending on shopping sprees and brushing it off as retail therapy, flirting a little too freely at parties. I told myself it was harmless, that every couple had their ups and downs. I swallowed my pride, cleaned up the messes, paid the bills. But what started as playful teasing grew sharper, cutting deeper each year. I'm not a flashy man. I go to work. I come home. I cook dinner. I read bedtime stories to Olivia. I don't buy grand gestures or make big promises I can't keep. I thought Rachel valued stability, but instead she called it dull. "You're safe, Mark," she once said with a half smile that wasn't a compliment. But safe isn't exciting. Still, I held on. I told myself it was just a phase, that Rachel would find her balance again. But the more I tried to keep the peace, the more contempt I saw in her eyes. And when contempt becomes the heartbeat of a marriage, every argument is a grenade waiting to explode. The breaking point came on an ordinary night that turned extraordinary for all the wrong reasons. Olivia was upstairs, supposed to be asleep. Rachel and I were in the living room, voices rising over something as stupid as an unpaid bill. But this time, Rachel didn't just yell. She stormed to the mantel, grabbed our wedding photo, the one of us smiling under a cascade of confetti, the picture Olivia loved to point at and say, "That's when you promised forever," and ripped it clean in half. "This marriage is a joke!" she screamed, her face twisted with rage. The sound of tearing paper echoed in the room like a verdict. I bent down, picked up the halves from the floor. For a moment, I just looked at them. The smiles, the hope, the promise. Then I tossed them into the fireplace. The flames caught instantly, curling the edges into black ash. "So are you," I said quietly, my voice steady in a way it hadn't been in years. That was when the room exploded. Rachel lunged at me, fury in every step. Olivia's small voice cried out from the stairs, and in that moment I realized this wasn't just another fight. This was the night everything we'd built burned to the ground. The morning after the photo and the fire, the silence in the house was deafening. Olivia wouldn't look at either of us. She sat at the kitchen table with her cereal, swinging her legs under the chair, her little face pale and tight. Rachel acted as if nothing had happened. She hummed while making coffee, scrolled through her phone, laughed at something on Instagram. I watched her and felt something twist inside me. How could she laugh after what she did? How could she act like tearing apart our wedding photo was just another Tuesday night spat? Later that week, the cracks grew wider. We had dinner with Rachel's friends, people who, over the years, had become more hers than ours. Halfway through the meal, Rachel leaned across the table, glass of wine in hand, and announced, "You know what Mark did yesterday? He spent 2 hours fixing the garage door." 2 hours, like it was brain surgery. That's my husband for you, always busy being boring. The table laughed. Some nervously, some genuinely. I forced a smile, but Olivia sitting beside me went quiet. She stared down at her plate, her small shoulders tense. That laugh, her mom turning me into a punchline, cut deeper than anything. That night, when I tucked Olivia into bed, she whispered, Dad, are you boring, like Mom says? I froze. My throat tightened. Liv, boring isn't real. You know what boring is? Making sure the lights stay on. Making sure you have food and books and bedtime stories. If that's boring, then yeah, maybe I'm boring, but boring is love. She nodded slowly, but I could see doubt in her eyes. Rachel's words were sinking in, and that terrified me. The following weekend, Rachel's spending spree hit a new peak. A package arrived. Designer shoes worth more than our monthly grocery bill. When I confronted her, she shrugged. It's my money too, Mark. Don't act like you're some martyr paying for everything. Maybe if you made more, I wouldn't have to cheer myself up with new shoes. I bit my tongue until I tasted blood. The old me, the man who swallowed insults to keep the peace, was fading. The cracks weren't just cracks anymore. They were fissures, and every word, every laugh at my expense, every dollar wasted was driving us closer to collapse. And Olivia was standing right in the middle, watching the house split open. It started with a bill. A simple overdue notice slipped under our front door, bright red letters screaming, "Final warning." Rachel was in the living room, glass of wine balanced on the arm of the couch, watching some reality show. I held up the envelope. "Do you want to explain this?" I asked. She barely glanced. "Relax, Mark. It's just money. You're always so dramatic." "It's not just money," I snapped. "It's our mortgage. If this doesn't get paid, we lose the house." Rachel rolled her eyes. "God, you sound like my father. Always doom and gloom. Maybe if you were half as exciting as you are responsible, I wouldn't need a glass of wine every night just to survive this marriage." Something inside me cracked. "You think tearing me down makes you exciting? You think humiliating me in front of Olivia, in front of your friends, makes you stronger?" My voice rose without permission. "All you've done is hollow this marriage out piece by piece." Her face changed, rage flashing across it like a lightning strike. She stood, stalked to the mantel, and grabbed our wedding photo. The one with confetti in the air, Rachel's veil catching the sunlight, both of us smiling like fools who thought love was indestructible. She ripped it in half, the sound sharp and final. "This marriage is a joke!" she screamed, shoving the halves into my chest. I stared down at the photo. My hands shook, not with fear but with clarity. Slowly, I bent down, picked up the pieces, and walked to the fireplace. Without a word, I tossed them into the flames. The photo curled, blackened, and vanished. "So are you," I said, my voice calm, almost too calm. Rachel's eyes widened in shock. Then she lunged. The glass in her hand slipped and shattered against the floor as she grabbed at me, nails scraping my arm. Her scream was animal, raw. In that instant, I wasn't her husband anymore. I was her enemy. From the stairs came a cry. "Stop!" Olivia stood there in her pajamas, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Her face was pale, her voice trembling. "Stop hurting Daddy!" The room froze. Rachel's hands hovered in the air, her chest heaving. My heart shattered, not from Rachel's attack, but from the sight of my daughter forced into the line of fire. Then came the pounding on the wall, our neighbors shouting through the thin drywall. What the hell is going on over there? And then the unmistakable sound of a phone dialing 911. The fire wasn't just in the hearth anymore, it was in the walls of our life, raging, unstoppable. The knock at the door wasn't a knock, it was pounding, heavy, urgent. "Police! Open up!" Rachel's hands dropped from my arm instantly. Her whole posture shifted. In the blink of an eye, the wildness in her eyes dimmed, and a mask slid into place, the mask of a wounded wife. I opened the door. 2 officers stood there, hands resting on their belts, eyes scanning the scene. The broken glass on the floor, the scorched fragments of our wedding photo still smoldering in the fireplace. Olivia clinging to the banister with tears streaking her face. "What's going on here?" one of them asked. Before I could speak, Rachel stepped forward, voice breaking in manufactured sobs. Officer, please. My husband lost his temper. He scared our daughter. I didn't know what to do. My jaw clenched so hard it ached. That's not what happened, I said, forcing calm into my voice. She ripped our photo, lunged at me with a glass. My daughter saw everything both officers looked between us. One leaned down toward Olivia. Sweetheart, are you okay? Olivia's little hands shook as she nodded, but she didn't speak. She pressed her face against the railing, silent. My stomach twisted. She was too young to carry this weight, too scared to contradict her mother. Rachel seized the silence. See, she's terrified. He can be explosive. I didn't want it to get this far, but... Her voice cracked as she dabbed at imaginary tears. I wanted to scream. I wanted to drag out the truth with my bare hands. But instead, I stood there, arms at my sides, watching Rachel spin her story. The officers separated us, one pulling me into the kitchen, while the other kept Rachel in the living room. Sir, the officer said, his tone low, we've got neighbors reporting shouting and glass breaking. Your wife says you lost your temper. Is there any history here we should know about? My laugh was humorless. History? Yes, months of insults, manipulation. Tonight she tried to claw my arm open with our daughter standing right there. I held up my forearm, the scratches still raw. That's your history. The officer studied me. Do you want to press charges? I hesitated. My mind replayed Olivia's face, terrified, trembling. Not tonight, I said finally. But I need this on record. Everything? When they left, Rachel turned to me with eyes cold as steel. The softness was gone. The mask dropped. You think you can win? She hissed. You think anyone will believe you over me? She walked upstairs without another word, her wine glass crunching under her heel like broken bones. That night, I sat at the kitchen table staring at the burned remains of our wedding photo. For the first time in years, I felt utterly alone. The neighbors thought I was the aggressor. The police weren't sure what to believe. And Olivia, the only one who had truly seen, was too scared to speak. The walls felt tighter. The silence felt heavier. Rachel was isolating me brick by brick, lie by lie, and I realized if I didn't start building my own case, if I didn't start collecting the truth piece by piece, I'd lose everything. The morning after the police visit, Rachel acted like nothing had happened. She floated around the kitchen humming, pouring herself coffee, even offering me a mug with a sweet smile. It was her game. Reset the board, pretend the explosion never occurred, and keep me off balance. But I didn't play along anymore. I quietly took the mug, set it down untouched, and slipped my phone into my pocket. From that moment, I decided every conversation, every outburst, every contradiction she gave me, it would all be documented. That afternoon, I bought a small voice recorder. I slipped it inside the drawer near the dining room where most of her tirades happened. The first night I used it, Rachel didn't disappoint. She accused me of poisoning Olivia against her, then launched into a rant about how I was a failed husband, a failed provider. Her voice, sharp as broken glass, filled the room. And this time, I had it all on tape. I also began a journal. Each entry was dated, time-stamped, and meticulous. What she said, what she threw, what Olivia witnessed. I kept screenshots of text messages where she berated me for imaginary slights, or demanded money for emergencies that never existed. At work, I confided in a colleague, Jacob. If this ever goes to court, I told him, I need someone who's seen what's happening behind the curtain. He nodded grimly. Keep records, man. Family courts run on evidence, not feelings. Don't let her get the first move. But Rachel was already sharpening her knife. She began planting seeds with friends and relatives. I noticed subtle shifts in how her sister spoke to me at dinner, the suspicious glances from her mother. Rachel painted me as the cold, neglectful husband who drove her to desperation. It was infuriating, but it also confirmed I was right. She was constructing a narrative. and I was building mine, one fact at a time. One evening, Olivia came to me after Rachel had slammed her bedroom door. She looked at me with wide, scared eyes. "Dad, is Mommy going to hurt you?" I knelt, heartbreaking. "No, sweetheart, I promise. But if anything ever happens, if anyone scares you, I want you to tell the truth. No matter what." She nodded slowly, clutching my hand like it was the last safe thing in the world. That night, I added another page to my journal. Not just Rachel's cruelty, but the silent witness my daughter had become. By the end of that month, I had a folder on my laptop stuffed with audio files, photos of scratches and broken objects, logs of her late-night screaming matches. Rachel thought she was winning, thought her theatrics would shield her, but the truth was no longer living only in my memory. It was on record, and sooner or later that record would be played in a room where her mask couldn't save her. The courthouse smelled like old wood and stale coffee. My palms were damp as I sat beside my lawyer, Ms. Patel, a woman with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue. Across the aisle, Rachel looked like she had been carved from porcelain. Perfect hair, black dress, and a tissue clutched delicately in one hand. She looked like grief itself. The judge, a graying man with tired eyes, called us to order. Rachel's attorney rose first, painting a picture so warped it almost sounded convincing. "Your Honor, my client has endured years of emotional neglect. She has been isolated, demeaned, and left to raise their daughter in an environment of cold indifference. The incident with the police, tragic, yes, but it was the result of her desperation for recognition." Rachel sniffled on cue, dabbing her eyes with the tissue. When it was my turn, Ms. Patel didn't rush. She stacked a neat pile of papers on the table and began with calm precision. "Your Honor, what my client has endured is not neglect, but intimidation, gaslighting, and physical threats. We will present recorded evidence, contemporaneous journals, and photographic proof of repeated incidents of domestic aggression. We will also show that the child in question, Olivia, has witnessed these events." The judge leaned forward. "Proceed." I sat frozen as Patel clicked play on the first audio recording. Rachel's voice exploded through the speakers. "You think you're so strong? You're nothing without me. I'll ruin you, Michael. I'll make sure Olivia hates you." The courtroom went silent. Rachel's mask cracked for just a second, her lips tightening. Patel followed with screenshots of Rachel's late-night tirades, demanding money, accusing me of affairs that never existed. Then came the journal entries, each page stamped with dates, each one cross-referenced with the recordings. But the final blow wasn't mine. It came from Olivia. Patel submitted a sworn statement from our daughter, carefully written under the guidance of a child advocate. The judge read it aloud, his voice steady but heavy. "Mommy threw things. Mommy said Daddy is bad, but Daddy is nice to me. I got scared when Mommy screamed. I told Daddy to stay safe." Rachel shot to her feet. "She's lying. He's manipulating her. She's just a child." "Mrs. Walker," the judge warned, "sit down." But she kept shouting, her voice rising higher and higher until the bailiff had to approach. Her perfect porcelain facade shattered in front of everyone, just like it always did at home. The judge's gavel struck. "Order! I've heard enough. Based on the evidence presented, temporary custody will be granted to Mr. Walker. Mrs. Walker will have supervised visitation until further evaluation." The words hit me like a tidal wave. Relief. Vindication. Terror at what came next. Rachel collapsed back into her seat, her tissue damp and useless now. She whispered, almost too soft to hear, "This isn't over." And I believed her, because women like Rachel don't let go quietly. For 3 days after the custody ruling, Rachel went silent. No texts, no calls, no unexpected visits. I almost believed she'd finally burned out. Then my phone started buzzing. "Have you seen this?" Jacob, my coworker, sent me a screenshot. It was Rachel's Facebook page, public for everyone to see. A long post stretched across the screen, littered with crying emojis and hashtags. Hashtag survivor, hashtag justice for moms, hashtag protect our children. Today, a broken system stole my daughter from me. For years, I endured cruelty behind closed doors. I stayed because I believed love could heal. Instead, I was silenced in court by money, manipulation, and lies. My little girl was brainwashed against me. But I won't stop fighting for her and for every woman who's been told she's too emotional to be believed. The comments section was a wildfire. Her friends poured in with sympathy. Old acquaintances chimed in with outrage. Strangers shared it, calling me a monster they'd never met. Within 24 hours, her post had over 1,000 likes and shares. But Rachel didn't stop there. She made TikToks, tears streaking down her face as she spoke about the night my child was stolen. She twisted Olivia's sworn statement into a script forced into her hands by her father. She even went live one night, pacing her room with dramatic lighting. He has recordings, she admitted, but anyone can fake audio. Anyone can write in a journal. Evidence doesn't mean truth. It just means he prepared to destroy me. Her followers nodded along, clapping in the comments, showering her with digital validation. Then came the real blow. Rachel's sister Lauren called me screaming. "How dare you brainwash Olivia? Do you know what people are saying about you online? You're a disgrace. My sister is fighting for her life and you're out here, what? Smiling with custody papers?" Even my own relatives started calling, uneasy after seeing Rachel's viral posts. "Michael, are you sure she's lying? She sounds so convincing." That was Rachel's weapon. Not just her rage, but her ability to bend perception. But what she hadn't counted on was that her story had cracks. One's too big to patch with hashtags and crocodile tears. Because while Rachel was busy performing for strangers online, Olivia had quietly drawn something at school. A picture of me holding her hand while Rachel screamed in the background. The teacher, alarmed, reported it to the guardian ad litem overseeing our case. That drawing, innocent, messy, but painfully clear, was about to slice Rachel's narrative apart. And this time, it wouldn't be me confronting her. It would be her own daughter's truth, made public in a way she couldn't control. It started with a school art project. Olivia's second-grade class had been asked to draw a memory of home. Most kids sketched birthday cakes, pets, or family vacations. Olivia drew something else. A little girl holding her dad's hand. A woman, mouth wide in a scream, red crayon lines shooting out like thunderbolts. Broken dishes on the floor. The teacher didn't dismiss it as childish exaggeration. She filed a mandatory report, attaching the drawing to the guardian ad litem's ongoing evaluation. But that wasn't what ended Rachel. What ended her was Olivia's voice. During a supervised visit, Olivia spoke to the child advocate without prompting. "Mommy tells people Daddy is bad. But Daddy doesn't hurt me." Mommy yells and throws things. I told her to stop the advocate. With Rachel sitting 2 feet away, recorded the statement for the file. Rachel tried to interrupt, her face blanching, but the advocate silenced her. "You can't coach her here." A week later, the advocate's findings were leaked. Not by me, but by someone in the system who was sick of seeing Rachel spin a web online. A local parenting blogger posted Olivia's drawing alongside a redacted transcript of her words. It went viral overnight. Rachel's TikTok victim saga collided with her daughter's testimony. Comment sections that once cheered her flipped like a tide. "So this is the truth? How dare she weaponize her child? Disgusting! Protect that little girl." Within days, Rachel's accounts were flooded with backlash. Sponsors she'd courted for advocacy collabs pulled out. Even her sister Lauren, once her fiercest defender, stopped commenting. Then came the live stream. Rachel went on camera to clear her name. But midway through, Olivia's voice clip began circulating on Twitter. "Mom, stop lying. You're hurting Dad." No amount of tears, theatrics, or hashtags could drown it out. By the next morning, hashtag Stop Hurting Dad trended higher than Rachel's original hashtag Justice for Moms tag. I didn't celebrate. I sat on the couch, Olivia's small frame curled against me, and whispered a quiet promise. You'll never have to stand in front of her screams again. The court, armed with fresh evidence, moved swiftly. Rachel's visitation was suspended indefinitely pending psychological evaluation. Rachel tried one last post. I was silenced. But for once, the silence wasn't mine. It was hers. By the next morning, Rachel's accounts were ghost towns. Her followers vanished, her videos flooded with angry comments, her hashtags drowned out by Olivia's truth. And then, just like that, she disappeared. No farewell post, no explanation, just silence. Weeks passed. There were no surprise calls, no unannounced visits, no staged sob stories online. For the first time in years, the house didn't feel like a battlefield. It felt like home. Olivia and I settled into routines that once felt impossible. Homework at the kitchen table. Bedtime stories without shouting in the background. Laughter that wasn't forced. One night, as I tucked her in, Olivia whispered, "Dad, it's quiet now." I kissed her forehead. Yeah, Liv. Quiet can be good. And in that silence, we finally found what we thought had been lost forever. Peace.